But I think it would be
Speak for
more
yourself.
entertaining episode if we were doing it with horses.
Like you were on horses.
If
and
we were
doing the
on
interview.
horses and doing a podcast, that would be epic.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch Podcast. It's been
So
a while,
offended.
and it's good to be back in the saddle.
Yes, it is good. It's good to be back.
Back in the saddle. Just imagine us riding horses.
I think that would be a more this is going to be an entertaining episode, not because of us, but I think it would be
Speak for
more
yourself.
entertaining episode if we were doing it with horses.
Like you were on horses.
If
and
we were
doing the
on
interview.
horses and doing a podcast, that would be epic.
That's a good idea.
Like little lapel mics, right? I reckon we can arrange that at some point. We've done
It'd be a bit noisy.
We've
but
done church in a car. We could do church on a horse, surely.
Yeah, I want to do a podcast in a car too.
It's very fun.
But yeah, you did do church in the car. That
We've
was
done a
pretty fun.
podcast in the car.
Have we?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Oh yeah, the
we
week
drove
away
down
one.
to
Of
Week
course.
Away. Yeah, we've done that. Anyway.
Yeah, let's stop talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Rob,
G'day.
welcome.
Thank you.
And we should say it's Rob from Miranda Congregational Church.
That's correct.
You are the first guest to come on this podcast from MCC.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes,
very
it's
exciting.
very exciting. Thank you for coming on.
Good to have you.
Yeah. You've just told me that you've been working out and at the beach, and then you just had a bacon egg roll just before.
And I slipped another black coffee in as well.
Oh, did you?
Whilst you were setting up.
What kind of workout are you doing when you're down at the
we
beach?
call it dirt gym.
Dirt gym. Okay.
So we used to train inside North Cronulla Surf Club. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it's kind of being rebuilt at the
They're
moment.
redeveloping that, aren't they?
And the builder's gone broke, so it could be that way for a bit longer.
Oh dear.
Oh,
That's
At
okay.
least that's the rumour. I can't confirm that, but that's the rumour. Certainly
okay.
work seems to have stopped.
Okay.
But when COVID hit, all the gyms shut, so we just moved our little crew out into the park and it became dirt gym. So
That's
we're
awesome.
still going with dirt gym, which we do Tuesday to Saturday,
Nice.
all through the year, and then jump in the ocean for a cool off and then have a coffee and a chat and then go to work.
Great way to start the
A
day.
swim after a workout is excellent.
Yeah, just
At the beach,
Drops
especially.
the body temperature down
yeah,
very quickly.
that's right.
Yeah, it's really good.
What does a dirt gym involve? Are you just rubbing dirt on yourself and then playing really
Just
loud music?
rolling around.
We have a trophy that goes to the trainer of the year that actually has dirt from the dirt gym in it. And it's sealed up with wax.
Excellent.
So that's as far as the dirt gets involved in the workout. But one of the guys just has a boot full of weights and bands and you name it and ropes that we hang from the trees. And
Yeah.
we just set up a circuit in the park, do the circuit, run around the surf club, do another circuit, do a bit of gut work, squat while we count 20 cars go past. We don't have a clock, so we need a counter. So
Yeah.
Some mornings in the middle of winter, that
There's not many
20
cars.
can take quite a while. So our quads get stronger through the winter and weaker through the summer because of the traffic, basically.
That's so good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
I love
that's
that.
the workout.
That's
That's really
fantastic.
cool. What a great way to start the day.
It is good. Yep.
I'm impressed. That's very cool. As we said, you're the first person to come on from MCC. Thank you again. Any misgivings before coming on? You said that you listened to a couple of episodes.
I've listened to quite a few. Yeah, I've been investing a lot of time understanding Soul Revival and how they do things and how you're trying to be culturally relevant and create cultural artefacts.
Yes.
And,
You've been listening to the Shock
yeah, so-
Absorber as well.
So Stu and you guys talk about all age, all stage, all cultures, all places or something.
Sharing
Spaces.
the truth of love
Yeah.
of Jesus, culture. What's the first one?
Age to age, I don't know.
Generation to generation,
Generation,
culture
that's
to
all
culture,
age, yeah.
place to place.
I feel like and the space to space, and there's one in there as well.
I'm
So
sure
now
there's
we've condensed that into sharing the truth of love of Jesus everywhere,
everyone,
everyone, everywhere. Yep.
And so you've moved that philosophy into the digital world as well with this stuff.
Yeah.
You're the digital pastor, I believe.
Correct. That's right.
Which is, the first time I'd heard of one of them. So
Yeah. Me too.
Okay. That's quite weird, but it seems to be working.
Yeah. It seems to be going okay at the moment. Well,
Yep.
hopefully we can continue to expand to the
Yeah.
digital ministry. That's our plan.
Yep.
But yeah.
So, been watching a few and getting the feel for what you do.
Can I ask? Is there any one episode that you really liked? Give someone a shout out.
Yeah.
The one I really want to see, but I haven't found yet because I'm mainly looking on Spotify when I'm just about to jump on my motorbike, so what will I listen to?
Yep.
Is Lou Crawshaw, because I think she's such a fascinating lady, but I haven't heard it yet.
It's a very good
That's
one.
the one I want to
It's a
hear.
good
So
episode.
that was episode 100,
Episode 100.
Okay,
if you
I'll
look
go
at
back and find that. That'll help.
and the longest one we ever did
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
The long bike ride.
Yeah, you must be going along. Yeah,
when
need to
I'm
go
in-
up to the Central Coast.
Well, I go up to North Sydney and back.
Oh, that'd do
when
it.
I'm
Okay,
working
yeah.
in Sydney, so that's
Perfect.
about 40 minutes each way.
Yeah.
Oh, you need a bit more time. It's
Yeah.
over 2 hours,
Yeah.
but still,
So-
yeah, I think
it's
I'm
a-
sure
it's a
you'll
good episode.
you're sure you get it done.
Yeah.
But it was a very good episode.
It was a great episode.
Yeah, enjoyed it a lot. Is there any updates before we get into the podcast? 2024, is it new year, new Ethan, or is it same old, same old?
Yeah, you're probably gonna see a little bit less of me on the podcast because I'm going to more college
You
this
are.
year, which means my schedules are a little bit different. I won't necessarily line up, but that's really exciting. I'm really pumped to have a bit of a change and to learn something new and broaden my understanding of the Bible and all the other things that come with that. And yeah, so that's really exciting. But that's new year, new me.
Yeah, but it's a big change for
Yeah,
you.
I start tomorrow.
Do you?
Yeah, going to a welcome day tomorrow. And
Oh.
then next week's orientation week, and then the week after that is orientation/Greek week. So we're
Orientation.
well, it's like 2
Greek
weeks of
week.
orientation week, and one of those orientation weeks is a Greek week.
Do 1 week in English and the next week's all Greek?
Yeah,
so
pretty
that
much,
you
pretty
can
much.
understand what they're talking about?
Yeah,
You've already
yeah.
heard it? Is that how they do it?
I don't know the
It's good. And then you have Euros.
I got asked to like do some pre-reading for this Greek thing, and they were like, "You need to learn the alphabet." And I'm like, "Awesome!" They send this video through that teaches you the alphabet. And I'm like, "Sick! I can do that." And I'm listening to this video, and she's just speaking in Greek, and so I actually have no idea what's going on. I'm like, I can't learn the alphabet if it's all in Greek. Like,
I need to know the equivalent.
yes, yeah,
English letter.
give me a step at a time. Like, I can see it on the screen. Just tell me what it means. And yeah, so already the YouTube videos are a bit complex. So we'll see how we go, shall we?
No.
There'll be updates as the year goes on.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing your travails
Yeah.
of studying the Bible
Yeah.
at Moore College.
Very exciting.
Very cool. All right, cool. Let's get started.
Yep.
Rob, first question, as always, is how do you like to eat your hot chips?
So I've been around a while, and I used to eat a lot of hot chips, but I now try and avoid hot chips
Okay.
because I've reached that stage of life where your metabolism changes. So how do I like my hot chips? I like it when I don't order them and when none of my family orders them, because then I'll eat them. But the last time I would regularly buy hot chips is when the kids were, I guess, at primary school.
Mm-hmm.
And we would always finish church here in the morning and then go to a little fish shop that used to be in Ginali and buy fish and chips and salad. And it was either salt or salt and vinegar.
And
Salt
is
and
that
vinegar.
plain salt?
Plain salt, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Man after Joel's heart. Actually, did you do vinegar? Like,
No, I've
would
never
you?
done vinegar. I mean, like I've had salt and vinegar crisps, but I've never had hot chips with.
It's pretty nice. It's very English.
Yes.
It is very
Yeah.
English.
It's very
Yes.
English.
The kids didn't like it much. So
Yeah, no, I-
mainly
Yeah.
just salt.
Yeah.
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 Again, can't mess with the classics.
Yep.
Chicken. What's your opinion on chicken salt, Rob?
I don't mind it, and I had a phase where we were into the chicken salt, but I find if you go to all the beer barns with all the the Ferros stuff and all the food, the chips they serve you, they don't seem to be sprinkled with chicken salt. It's kind of like they've got this process that makes it stick all over the chip, and it's too much.
I'm with you.
Too
Fair
much.
enough.
So
Fair enough.
chicken salt in moderation is all right, but more often than not, when you get Ferros chips or something like that, they're just coated with chicken salt, and it's too much.
I'm gonna plug this at any opportunity, but I've gone from chicken salt to whatever this MSG goodness that I've found is. Across the road from Miranda Congregational, there is a chicken and chip shop called Char Grilled Chickies, I think it's called.
Chicky something, chicky
Chicky
chickens,
something,
something
yeah.
like that.
It's always
And-
funny the names of chicken shops.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
But they make their own chicken salt, and I'm pretty sure they just cover it. Like it's chicken salt and a lot of MSG, and then they cover the like fries. They're not like thick chips. They're like fries, and you cover them. Oh my goodness, world changed.
And what do you drink with that to wash the salt down?
Oh, you
You need a-
drown in water because it's
You need a pellet
ridiculous.
cleanser.
You do.
After that, I
You
mean,
do.
I've had a couple.
They're so good.
I don't know.
They're so
I just don't like them as much as
They're
you
so
do.
good. But you don't like chicken salt at all.
Okay, so
let
I found
alone
out
Flavor Town.
I found out my dislike of chicken salt is hereditary.
Oh,
My dad hates it even more than I do.
there you go.
I only found that out a few weeks ago, but because I asked the question, how do you like to eat your hot chips? Because I was trying to plug the podcast that I was hosting. Around this, we went away for, I went to Bali and was around the table with like my family and my dad and my sister and all that. And I asked, we went around the table, said, how do you like to eat your hot chips? And got around to Danny's like, never, ever a chicken salt. Like, it's
Amazing.
Just, yeah. So I think it is hereditary.
Well, it means
the
as a
taste
kid
buds.
you never got to try it and start to like it.
That might be a very good point.
So it might
That
be
is-
environmental.
That is a good point.
Because I feel
Nature
I'm trying to-
nurture right there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
I think I don't know if I found out about chicken salt until maybe late primary school, early high school.
And that probably too late by then.
Yeah, if all your taste buds are fully developed, you're not changing.
Yep. You're out of it.
And just another thing, I don't like hot drinks because he doesn't like hot drinks.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I sometimes have hot chocolate, but apart from that, I don't drink tea or coffee.
Yep.
So that might. Anyway,
There you go. Wow.
taste buds are hereditary.
Taste buds, hereditary.
My
There you
son
go.
would correct me on that. He says that your taste buds change every 10 to 15 days or something. So
Or regenerate, but they might regenerate the same.
could be.
Ah.
Anyway, we'll move on. Probably my favourite question that we ask on this podcast, Rob, is how did you become a Christian?
So this was the question I gave a lot of thought to.
Oh,
And
it's good
That
move.
is that is
Good
the
move.
the best one to pick.
I'm an engineer, right?
Yep.
And engineers like to be precise. And I actually reckon that I became a Christian the same way everybody else became a Christian. The real question you're asking is, what are the circumstances in your life that led you to understand that you needed to be saved?
Mm.
Which is the same question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't think anyone gets saved in any different way.
Mm.
It's the circumstances that make them own it.
Mm.
So I'll answer that question if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fire away.
Please
Fire
do.
away.
Yeah, so I was brought up in a typical Australian home in the Shire. No church exposure whatsoever. My father's quite a strong atheist, and my mother, you know, they would have had some sort of church upbringing, being born in the 30s, but they really didn't do anything with that. And so I just grew up in an Aussie house doing Aussie kid stuff. I did start to go to a couple of youth groups when I was probably 13 or 14, just through some mates. And I remember I used to go to a youth group in Sutherland at the church that's behind the entertainment centre. I don't know which one it is. And I probably went there for about 6 or 8 months. And you had to go to the hall, do all the fun stuff, and then go and sit in the church and do something. And despite spending every Friday night in there for probably 8 or 9 months, I couldn't remember a single thing about the inside of that church or anything said in that church. The only thing I can remember is there was a heater rail in the bottom of the pews
Yeah,
that
really?
they ran hot water through in winter, and you could melt your shoes on it.
melt your shoes on it.
So I guess that's not the circumstance that led me to understand that I needed to be saved.
Yes,
To me,
this
that's
is like hell. On they were trying to give you a sense of what hell would be like with the burning your feet.
I'm sure what was said was perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
But what I think about that in hindsight is, unless the Holy Spirit is working, and it's the Holy Spirit that's calling you, you know, the words of men are just words of men. It's the Holy Spirit that actually brings you that conviction. And my stage of life was not such that I could hear that conviction.
Yeah.
So, but I was hanging around youth groups and I guess hearing stuff about you know, Jesus and God and salvation and all that, but it was all just straight over my head, didn't really pick it up at all. And I was living what looked like a pretty good life, but I was actually, I think, probably heading to become a kleptomaniac. And I got busted big time and pretty much expelled from school almost. I had to go and tell my family, who had no idea. And it was the conviction of guilt, sin and shame and the opportunity for forgiveness, salvation and a fresh start that made me hear the gospel for the first time, despite probably having heard it many times over the previous 18 months.
Yeah, wow.
Really?
That was the turning point in my life, basically, at about the age of 15.
Was
What?
it-
What?
okay.
Oh, you know, you go.
No, you go.
What
Sorry.
was it about? If you can remember, what was it in particular about this part of the gospel that moved you?
So, you know, guilt and shame is a pretty powerful thing, and I guess you're seeking to make restitution and to seek forgiveness from, you know, my parents in particular, and but I was convicted about the saving grace of Jesus Christ that gives you a forgiveness that's even more powerful than that forgiveness, and gives you the ability in the strength of the Holy Spirit to be able to say no to sin, and to turn around from something that had been an emerging pattern of behaviour for probably, 9-10 years in my life, even at the age of 15, to be able to turn my back on that and start living differently. The attractiveness of the Christian message and the 1 Corinthians 10:13b is a verse that I picked up in that time, which has stayed with me, which was that you won't be tempted beyond your ability to withstand that temptation, and that the Holy Spirit will provide that strength to you. That was a verse that was very clear and speaking to me at that time, which I've hung on to from that time. And the good news is I haven't sinned since because of that verse. maybe not quite true, but I certainly lent heavily on that verse and that
Right.
truth. Yeah.
I was just going to ask that if you said it was at 15. Was it after you said you'd been caught that you heard the gospel from someone and then you're like, oh, that's what I've been missing? Or you'd heard it at youth group and you're like, oh, that's what I should have paid attention to?
I guess it's a bit hard to say in hindsight, because I'd been hearing it,
Yeah.
but I hadn't been. I don't think I'd been considering it. I don't remember considering it.
Okay.
It was actually after, being caught out and really descending into that guilt and shame that I watched that movie about A Thief in the Night. Was that the series of movies? You guys are too young to know this.
Not sure.
So there was a movie about the second coming, and it was called, I think, A Thief in the Night.
Oh, because he will come in
And-
like a thief in the night.
yeah,
You won't
It was
know.
like that book that was out more recently where you wake up one morning and all
Everyone's
the Christians are gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was the conviction, the guilt and shame, and seeing that movie and understanding that, which those two things coming together, and I can't remember whether it was days, weeks or months apart, but it certainly wasn't much more than that. I mean, it would have probably been weeks to months. And that was the conviction that led me to pray the prayer for salvation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it's like for you growing up in the Shire, like prior to that? Because I feel like the majority of people that listen to this podcast are probably from the Shire, only just because
That's where we
this
are.
is where Soul Revival started. And we've got plenty of our friends over in Riot as well. But yeah, I was just wondering because I think it's probably quite different to what it was back then. Because I remember there's a story, someone told me, someone at work who's a bit older and has lived in the Shire all their life, they said that the Kingsway was once just a single lane dirt road.
He must be quite old.
Yeah, so I'm not accusing you of being that old.
Yeah.
But I can't even imagine that because I moved to the Shire when I was 4, and it was a 3-lane road each way. Still is. So my question is just, what was the Shire like growing up for you?
I mean, the busyness on the roads is a kind of measure, and
Yeah.
I had a 10-speed push bike, and I'd ride it everywhere, and I'd ride up and down the Kingsway and President Avenue without a care in the world. Now, maybe I'm become old and conservative, but you don't see 12, 13, 14-year-old kids doing that today.
No.
I'd ride from Kirrawee to the Brick Pit, where I went to primary school there,
Oh, yeah.
in the back of the high school. I'd ride up and down there every day from third grade. So it's certainly, there's a lot more people, it's a lot busier, and but has the culture shifted significantly? It's shifted, but I think it's still got the Shire unique characteristics.
Oh, that's interesting. And so did you go to Kirrawee High as well?
I went to Kirrawee Primary and then Kirrawee High, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of people
Excellent.
at Soul Revival have gone to Kirrawee High.
I was Kirrawee High.
Yeah.
I wasn't Kirrawee Primary.
Braden
But
was
very
Kirrawee
cool.
High.
Braden was Kirrawee High.
Yep.
Just pointing to
Off screen.
off screen to the
Teddy.
guy in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and you said that you were on your way to being a kleptomaniac.
Yes.
Is that right? So
Yep.
kleptomaniac is someone that
Steels.
steals.
Yes.
Tell me why you're saying that feel like you were on the way to becoming that.
I think I was challenging myself to see what I could get away with.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, kids get to an age where they figure out their parents don't know everything and they can start telling lies. And that's a natural part of development, or at least I think it is. I did
Yeah,
that. I
no,
don't know about you
yeah.
guys.
Checks out.
I know when I started stealing. I was, I don't know, around 5 years old.
Wow.
And we were playing shop at home.
Oh,
My mum
okay.
had got all this stuff out and coins and all that.
Yeah.
And I kept some of the coins. I probably bought some lollies or something, I don't know what. And it's like that. I figured out I can lie. I figured out I can do this. And like any sin, you can either keep descending into it or you can turn your back on it. It's very hard to stay level, I think, with sin. You know, we either get sucked into it or we turn and repent and turn our back on it. And so that spiral of that just kept evolving, you know. And that, you know, flogging money from my parents, but a lot of money and regularly, you know, for a long time. Right up until that point in time, I'd been doing that.
Yeah, wow.
I basically, and you know, stuff from shops as well, and I grew up down the back of Kirrawee High School, and the way I got caught was, back then there was no fence, right? There's a fence now.
Yep.
We'd play up there every afternoon, and if you ever want to know how to get onto any of the roofs of any of the buildings, or down into the buildings, come and see me. I know every way. I know every way into that school. And
Right.
I was in the school flogging stuff from the school.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, okay.
Not massive stuff, but just because I could.
Yeah.
And I got busted. And I'd been doing it for years. And so Mr. Herndon, I think it was, deputy principal at the time, I'm in his office and, you know, packing darkies as a 15-year-old.
Fucking darkies is the funniest saying. Sorry.
And he
Wait,
told me to go home.
You don't know what that means?
What does that mean?
Like, so you're scared.
Yeah.
So you're packing darkies, meaning
Something appearing in your trousers.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really funny.
Yeah,
That's
funny,
awesome. That's funny as.
That's an old saying.
Yeah.
That's a great saying. I love that.
There's a more coarse way of saying
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Which is
no,
still
but-
here today.
Yeah. That
Packing-
one I would have been more aware of, but that packing darkies.
yeah, it's good. It's good.
I love that.
Sorry. So you
Sorry.
you got caught by Mr. Hearn packing
Yeah.
darkies.
Yeah. And he told me I had to go home and tell my parents. Whereas I think I would have preferred him to tell them.
Yeah.
But I think it was the right approach to take. You know, if you're genuinely going to be repentant about it, then you need to fess up to it.
Take responsibility
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Now I'm not condoning stealing stuff.
yes.
But what do you reckon is the best thing you ever stole?
I,
Or what was your greatest triumph?
I think, I don't know, actually, it's I was more doing it because I could than,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the greatest triumph was being able to get in this. I mean, getting in the school and nicking stuff was
Yeah.
impressive, right?
Yeah,
Like,
okay,
wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
And but another one I do remember, which, and why do I remember? It's a good question. I don't know, but we spent a year in the US when I was in sixth grade. So I was about 12, 10, 11, 12. I can't remember. And we used to walk through the forest and go to this shopping centre of some sort. And I don't remember stealing much stuff when we were in the US, but I do remember stealing Hubba Bubba bubble gum
Oh yeah.
from this shop, and then back through the woods. And yeah, maybe that was the first time I lifted stuff from a shop. I don't know, but I do remember that. Yeah,
That sticks in the mind.
yeah, Hubba Bubba.
But they're the big
They're the big square
chunky square
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
aren't
I
they?
mean, this is going back to '76, so they may have changed since then. But Americans then used to love blowing bubbles in bubble gum.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was
And
the
Hubba
thing.
Bubba was like kind
The
of
one.
known. That's the
That
one you
was the
could
one.
use.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you move to the US for a year?
My father was working at Australian Atomic Energy Commission out here at Lucas Heights back when it was AAEC, whereas it's now ANSTO, and wanting to work in nuclear power industry.
Okay.
And the plant that was going to be built at Jervis Bay got canned when the government changed. So in order to follow that career ambition, it wasn't going to happen in Australia. So he got a job at a power and research reactor in New York State. And we moved there, and the theory was try it for a year, and if we like it, we stay. I'm very pleased that he didn't like it, because I look at America and go, I'm glad I grew up here, and I'm glad my kids are growing up here. So we spent a year there, and I did last year of primary school in the US.
There you go.
Was that tough moving? That's an interesting time to move as well, like the last year of primary school, or to do your last year of primary school there. Is that hard?
I don't think so. I think it's only in hindsight that I realise we might have stayed there. At the time, it was a 1-year adventure. I think that's probably the way my parents pitched it.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was a 1-year adventure. I mean, you think, oh yeah, see you later, friends. I'll see you when I get back, rather than I'm picking my whole life up and got to make new friends.
Yeah.
So it was a 1-year adventure, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
No, that's brilliant.
Where in New York?
So I'm on Long Island.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Long Island's quite long.
Yeah.
It's in the name, kind of.
Yeah.
And we were about 2/3 of the way out to the eastern end of Long Island. So Manhattan, New York, across to Long Island, and then 2/3 of the way along.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
And your dad wanted to work in nuclear power, is that right? To understand
more nuclear research than power.
Yeah, okay.
And there was a big research reactor there as well.
Okay.
But he didn't like the place, so we came back, and when Fraser put all the knife through AAEC, he transferred into CSIRO, which is what most of them did, and worked in mineral engineering instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were going to do a nuclear research place in Jarvis Bay?
So have you been to Green Patch?
Yep.
And then you keep driving to Jones's Beach?
I think so, yeah.
Have you ever noticed how big the car park is for Jones's Beach?
Yes, I think I have.
That's because that's the site that was cleared to build a nuclear power plant.
Really?
Huh.
That's why they have such a huge car
such a
park.
beautiful place.
And that's why the road used to be a fantastic road as well.
Yeah.
It's probably
wow.
deteriorated in the last 30 years, but
Possibly, but
that's where the nuclear
that was
power
the
plant
end.
was going to go, because all that land is federal.
Yeah, it's federal
Yeah.
land, isn't it? Yeah, because there's a Navy base there as well, right?
So that's why that was the site.
I did not know that. That's really
There you go.
interesting.
wild.
I'm just thinking about it because I'm pretty sure I have been there.
Yeah.
Because is there a jetty there as well?
It's been a long time since I've been there.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I remember thinking, why is the car park so big here?
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah.
There you go.
Look at that.
All right.
Okay, so you went to the US.
Yep.
You came back. We talked about getting caught stealing stuff.
Yep.
Which led you to becoming a Christian.
Yep.
What was the next step after becoming a Christian? So you're 15, became a Christian, stopped stealing stuff?
Yes.
Okay, that's
did.
good.
Yeah, cold turkey.
Oh, there you go, cold turkey, right. You didn't feel tempted just to get one more in before?
No.
Okay.
No.
So did you end up, do you think you needed to find a church, or did you know friends that were Christians?
So I was by that time coming to the youth group here already.
Okay.
So my current wife, my wife now, I've only had one, so my wife now and her sister and my sister were best friends. So through that friendship, I had started coming here.
Yep.
So I was, here on I might have been coming to the services as well. I don't actually recall whether I was or not, but I was certainly coming to probably a Friday night youth group and probably the Sunday Christian Endeavour. If I wasn't, I certainly did start doing that. Yeah, and the evening service on a Sunday night. Yeah.
Is that when MCC was over the other side though?
Yes, so we were up there until late 1990 or early 91, and then we came here.
So that was prior to the expansion of Miranda Fair, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because I remember talking to someone here that Miranda wanted to expand, but then, Miranda Fair, like Westfield wanted to expand, but then MCC were like, well, yeah, but we need to know somewhere as our church is going to be, and they basically did a full turnkey. They built, like Westfield built the whole thing.
Yeah, so
correct?
I was around when it happened, but I wasn't involved in the transaction, shall we say. But the deacons at the time struck a deal whereby they had to buy suitable property in Miranda, which is this property was 3 residential blocks, and construct the building so that when we moved out, it was walk down, move in.
I was ready to go when you moved out.
Yeah, so
wow.
the deal was done, and I don't know whether it was 2 or 3 years later. We just walked down the road, basically.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So it was, just for context, it was where it was in, like if you could right now go into a shop in Miranda.
So you know where JB Hi-Fi is?
Yeah.
And whatever's on the right, which changes restaurants and all sorts of things.
Decathlon
So it was
at the
that
moment.
corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a car park on the corner.
Yep.
Which was the site of the church before the one that Westfield knocked over.
Yep.
So we had an old stone church there, which I've never seen, to be fair. It would have been around in my lifetime, but I never saw it.
Yeah.
And then there was another building built behind the car park on that boundary, kind of in JB Hi-Fi, and there were some halls up kind of where the escalators are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll try and remember to put a photo of JB Hi-Fi in the video, so there's like.
And I can show you
context.
pictures of the church. They're in the back of my.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, could you send some of those through? That'd be great.
Yeah.
They're not digital though, because they're from 1990.
Let's take photos of them.
That's right.
great.
We can put it out there somehow.
Yeah.
So that was the early 90s expansion of Westfield.
Yes.
Is that right? Yep.
Yeah.
Because I remember that happening when I was
Young.
early-ish high school, I think.
Yeah.
That's when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we moved here in 1990. So
it was the expansion
they were
across...
building already, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they expanded across Kiora Road. They actually built all the bridge over Kiora Road, didn't they?
Yeah. And dug the big hole for the cinemas down the bottom. And
Yeah, that's right.
all of that.
Yeah, okay. Just funny that they moved the cinemas again now, and they did another expansion.
I don't know what's in the hole now.
It's Time Zone.
Is it?
Yeah.
Time Zone, and it used to be like a rock climbing place. It used to be like
Trampoline.
Oh yeah, the flip out. Was it flip out?
It was a flip. It was something like that.
Yeah, but I think it's just now Time Zone.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it takes up all that space though. I think there's still a lot of empty space.
There's also a gym down there, or there was a gym down there, so it's split in two.
Yeah.
So one side is Time Zone, one side is this massive gym.
I just remember the cinemas is a large area.
It's very big.
But just recalling memories. That's how the Shire's changed, guys. Biggest change in the Shire, Westfield.
And the brick pit.
And the brick pit.
Oh, brick pit.
830 residences on one side.
Yeah, this guy lives in it.
Yeah.
It's not a hole in the ground anymore.
Yeah. We've destroyed the Shire.
That's it. So what happens next? You become a Christian. The Shire slowly starts getting destroyed. And as you're watching the Shire get destroyed, are you still in high school?
Yeah, I'm still in high school, so I was in year 10, I guess.
Yep.
And I finished my HSC at Kirrawee, whilst continuing to come here, and then went off to UNSW to do civil engineering. Went to uni and said, "This is serious." To myself, this is Robert talking to Robert. This
in
is
the mirror,
serious.
looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
No girls.
Oh.
Get my degree.
Oh.
Focus. No girls.
Does that mean you were like a bit of a ladies' man prior to that though?
No. There'd been a couple, but I wouldn't say I was a ladies' man, but it was a deliberate, conscious choice. No girls.
Yeah.
And uni starts in February, and by the 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day, I have a girlfriend, which is
That's really solid.
Your current
No
wife?
girls.
my current wife. You're going to get me in trouble. Is now my wife, and she was already here at this church. So
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't
Lovely.
catch a lady at uni.
God
I like to say the lady here caught me, but
Yeah.
she'll dispute that.
Oh. Why would she dispute that though?
Well, she probably thinks I chased her.
Oh, but you don't think so?
I think there was a bit of two-way in it, which is good because
I think that's good. I think that's
otherwise,
usually a good
otherwise
thing,
it could be futile, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or it could be.
right.
It was mutual.
Whatever. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's probably good.
All right. If you want to,
Yeah.
I'll
Right,
go.
you bugged me enough. I'll go out with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can I ask you? You said that your mum and dad weren't heaps keen on church. How do they going with you now going to church pretty regularly?
I don't. They weren't anti, so there was no discouragement, but there'd certainly been no encouragement.
Right.
It just wasn't a thing that I was aware of. Even it's like we were in our culture, and our culture was, didn't involve Christianity in our house.
Did you ever have interesting discussions with them about it, or it was?
A bit. I can't say I can really recall them. I think to this day my father still finds it hard to understand that I could believe this.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes we have a little chat around that, which is a bit uncomfortable for him and me, I think.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. And you will know this far better than me, but has he not seen the change in you, like since obviously you were like stealing stuff and things like that, but he doesn't see that as being something interesting to talk about?
I don't think, besides me going cap in hand and being given a stern talking to about it. I don't think it was it's funny because I don't think they were aware that I was doing it to start with, and then it was there, like a turd on the table between us, and then it was dealt with, and then it didn't exist anymore. So even though it was something that I'd been aware of for a decade, it was something that, to the best of my knowledge, they were not aware of the fact that I'd been, nicking $20 out of the wallet and playing the pennies up the road all the time, and stuff like that. Because to all ostensive purposes, I was a good kid. That was the hidden sin, right? That was the thing that I was ashamed of in my life. But it was, I didn't do it with other people. It was just me, solo man. Yeah, just doing my thing, off to the side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So, on reflection, it was dealt with, and then we just moved back to what kind of life was like before.
Which in one way is really good. That it's not like their love for you changed at all. Right? They were like, oh no, this is resolved, and what's happened doesn't change how we feel about you, which is really lovely.
But then, don't think it did. No.
Yeah, which is really. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
because it could damage your relationship, but it doesn't sound like it did.
I certainly sensed their disappointment.
Yeah,
right. There was no doubt about that. It wasn't like, oh well, you said you won't do it again. Don't worry, that's okay. It wasn't like that. There was disappointment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
you said you were playing the pennies. Are they poker machines?
No, pinball machines.
Oh, pennies.
Yeah, the pinball.
I got that one.
Yeah.
Did you?
I got that one.
I know what pinball machines are, but weren't we having a discussion once that someone doesn't even know what a pinball machine is?
I don't know.
I don't know if it was with you.
Ding, 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 ding. I like pinball machines.
Or maybe it was someone was doing a sermon. They said no one knew what young people didn't know what a pinball machine was.
That's wild. That is very sad.
Pinball machines are great.
They're so good.
I really enjoy
pinball
playing
machine.
pinball.
They're fantastic.
I'm
not very good at it.
Where was your local haunt for pinball machines?
So you know where Kirrawee High School is?
Yeah.
And then the Oval?
Yeah.
And then those shops.
Was there?
So there's shops there?
Yeah.
Are they still there?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if they are now. They were when I was at school, but I think they're now apartments.
A little supermarkety place.
Yeah.
And then the ones
not there anymore.
facing towards the bush down the hill, the end shop heading away from the school was a little pinball parlour for quite a while.
Oh, like it had a number of pinball machines there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And, Space Invaders table machines.
I love that. That's awesome.
And I'm not sure, maybe it did something else as well, but that's the thing I remember was in there.
Yeah.
What was your favourite machine to play on?
Oh dear. Whichever one they had, basically, because they turn them over. But I think Playboy had lots of targets, and that was really good because I like hitting targets.
Playboy. Okay.
And you get all these modern two-story ones with flickers up the top.
Yeah, they're hard.
It's all a bit much for me. Just a bit simpler.
Like to get it up the ramp to get up to the second level. Yeah, they're difficult.
But lots of targets, and I don't mind the top flickers if there's more targets up there. That's good.
Yep.
But targets are my thing.
Awesome.
How good are the ones where when to launch the ball you don't press the button, you got to pull the thing.
That's the only way, isn't it?
No, I've played ones that you press a button.
Well, there is,
and if you want the hard launch, you'd pull it back and get your thumb on it, and give it a bit more go.
I see. I like these hot tips that
That's
we're learning
great.
from. Yeah, right. Yeah. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I remember there was a set of shops near where I lived. There wasn't a pinball machine, but there was a Street Fighter 2 machine, and kids are always playing that. And my mum especially wouldn't let me play it because I was too young. It was too violent. It was too fun. Yeah. And I can understand that, but it more just thinking back is like the graphics must have been so bad compared to now.
But it's a different machine, right?
It is.
And it's a different kind of game.
But yeah, we don't really do that anymore. We don't go to somewhere to play games. You just play them at home. Yeah. It's just an interesting. That's the shy has changed as well.
In saying that, time zone's up there.
But I don't
find that
there
good.
For parties, don't they? They don't go there.
That's it.
Like I used to go up every afternoon.
No, that is true.
That's it. Like Tilt, when Tilt was in Miranda Fair at Westfield?
No, but yeah.
It was like a huge arcade thing.
Yeah, I do.
So it's where Aldi and like in Miranda, what's the other one? Reject Shop, I think?
Oh yeah.
That was all arcade place.
Was it?
Yeah, it was unreal.
There you go.
So good.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got a bit sidetracked by pinballs.
But just a good thing.
Yes. Pennies. I should remember that now. you said that you met your current wife and started dating pretty quickly as you started.
Yeah. I'd known her for a few years, but
Can we ask her name first?
Janelle, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Janelle, current wife. When did you guys end up getting married?
We dated for 6 years
Okay.
and got married 6 months after that. So 6 years and 6 months.
Is that because did you want to finish uni first
Um,
before
That was
have a job?
the primary probably reason.
Mm.
Yeah. So I just started uni. Janelle was already working. She'd started working in the city as a sort of secretary, Girl Friday sort of thing. So she was already working and earning, which was good because, we'd go out for dinner and stuff and I could get her to pay. So I didn't have much money.
Win
I was a
in.
uni student.
Yeah.
So we wanted to, when we got married, buy a house. And to buy a house, you've got to be able to get a loan. And to get a loan, we probably needed my income.
Mm-hmm.
And, even then, back then when we applied for our loan, we were engaged but not yet married. The bank would not consider Janelle's income in contribution towards paying the loan because times were different.
I've heard that, yeah.
Really?
So they allowed 25% of my before-tax income to cover the loan and nothing from Janelle.
Wow.
So they were different times.
Very different.
Wild.
Whereas now they'll take, 55% of both your incomes and make it your problem.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, where did you end up working once you finished civil engineering?
So I finished in 87
Mm-hmm.
and that was a recession,
Yes.
and getting jobs in civil engineering was very difficult.
Because there wouldn't have been much infrastructure.
There wasn't
and
much
things.
construction going on.
Yeah.
There wasn't much money being spent. We're in a recession basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting a job as a research and development engineer in metallurgy at a place in Caringbah. Trying to remember the name of the road that runs up behind Bunnings. I'm going to say Willerong Road. I don't think that's right. But between the railway and Captain Cook Drive.
Sure.
And the high school's on the left of that road. But down there used to be a place that made hard-facing plates for mining applications. And I was employed. They had a process that CSIRO had developed and they were trying to commercialise. And they had some expensive guy there doing it and they hadn't quite got it working yet and they wanted to cut the budget. So, you'll do. You're now our R&D engineer. And would you go and do a Masters in Metallurgy so that you actually know what you're doing, please? So,
And did you?
I stayed 6 months. Right. I really wanted to work in civil engineering, so I took the job because it was a job.
Yeah.
And it was okay. And it was interesting, but it wasn't what I'd trained to do and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So
fair enough.
took the job, but I was looking for another job. So
Did you finish the Masters as well?
no, after 6 months and I left and I dropped the Masters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I then went from living in Kirrawee, working in Caringbah. I then moved in with some uni mates at Waverley and was commuting back to Caringbah, which seemed a bit silly. And then I took a job and I worked in Pymble for 3 years. So then I was way up there and living in, I moved to Kensington. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What has it been like since then, and in that time too, probably? It was like being a Christian in an engineering world.
It's interesting. I think today, if we go all the way back to then, I think it was more a part of our culture and less left field.
Yep.
Some people are interested, some people aren't interested, some people, will talk about it, some people don't want to, but it wasn't adversarial or controversial. Yeah.
What's the passion behind civil engineering? Because you said you didn't want to do the metallurgy stuff.
I think a lot of kids when they're getting to year 12, it's what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I guess I had a bit of that, but I certainly liked mathematics and sciences. My father is a scientist, but he's not a handyman. Like engineers are often very handy.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of more practical application of science, I guess. Not that engineering has a lot of science behind it. So I thought engineering suited what I wanted to do more than science, and then looking at the engineerings, I thought civil looked like a good one. The degree is quite diverse. You can do a lot of things. It covers water, traffic, structural, civil, and project management. And I think there's another thing I forget. But yeah, so off the back of it, you can do a lot of different things. So you do a course and then you try and figure out what you want to do with it. Except it was a recession, so there weren't so many options. So
recession we had to have.
Exactly, yeah.
So does that mean that job in Pymble, was that civil? More
so
down the line,
I worked in what would be called a planning consultancy, which is about the project management planning side of construction.
Okay.
So I spent most of my time putting together tender programs for mid-tier builders. So you get the drawings and all of that and do the quantity takeoffs and figure out the activities, the duration, the logic. Have you guys used a critical path method piece of software?
I know a little bit about it.
Like Microsoft Project?
Yeah. I've seen it. I haven't used it that much though.
So back then...
Gantt charts.
Yeah, Gantt charts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a word I know.
That's a word I know. So back then...
It's the first word I've known in the last few sentences, but yeah.
Yeah, so back then, the only computers that would do the calculations behind those Gantt charts were on mainframes.
Yeah, right.
So I would do it all by hand on tracing paper, butter paper, with a pencil.
Really?
Doing all the calcs myself, figure out the dates for everything, do all of that. And when I was happy with it, I would then draw it up more neatly, and then I would give it to our drafty, and our drafty would do it with pen and sepia paper.
Yeah, wow.
And then we could run it through the plan printer, which is like a big photostat machine, except it uses sepia and chemicals, so it smells like the old photostat machines that they had at schools. You might remember those.
Maybe.
And
I don't know
send
how
the
old
copies
you're
off to
calling
the
me
builder. Yeah, and I also worked on some live jobs, just updating where they're up to and how they were going and what that meant. So yeah, that was my first 3 years.
My understanding, for example, of a Gantt chart is it's all the different pieces involved in a construction project.
Or any project. Yeah.
Any project. Yeah. But we'll do construction because it's related to what you're saying. And then it's all the different stages that have to happen. One follows the other, which is why it's called a critical path.
Yep.
So I've probably only seen it on a computer. So if something changes, which is what the reason, like one of the reasons you have it is to understand how it affects the critical path. That means that you have to trace the entire thing again.
So if you wanted to recalculate all those dates, you would need to redo the maths. So we used to use what was called the jagged line or the tits and bums. So you'd put... This is what it used to be called, right? So you'd take the print out of this program with the Gantt chart, all hand drawn by Vicky, who was our drafty, and you'd put it up on the wall in the site shed.
Yep.
And at the end of each week, you'd say, and the time scales across the top, this activity, have we finished? Are we on track? And if we're not, you'd go back because it's behind, and that's a bum, right? Because it's sticking out the back. And then this one, we're ahead. So you got the jagged line or the tits and bums line, and so you would just look at this and go, are we going all right here, or have we got more bums than...
Yeah.
And that's... So you wouldn't redraw it every week. Yeah.
Okay.
And I had a senior project manager working with me on the M4 East 7 years ago. When we produced his program, he printed it out on the plotter, stuck it on the wall, and every week would go and do this on his own wall.
Same thing, yeah.
Even though I and my team were putting it in the computer and able to reprint it all, rather than like this, it was like, well, this is what it now says. Yeah, and he'd still look at that, but this was his visual cue as to how am I going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we used to do, yeah.
I mean, I've only really seen something like that in residential construction context, which I don't think is a little bit more flexible. And what I find interesting is that in a scale, something like even the M4 East, as you were saying, that's a gigantic project.
Yep.
Billions of dollars. $2.5 billion. Okay. Do you feel, if you're in that project planning area, do you feel the pressure to make sure, like, is that difficult?
There's certainly a lot of pressure within the team. So I was the planning manager on that job, and that's the role I tend to do these days. And what I say to all my project managers is, I'm the planner, not the achiever. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
I can make anything you like work on paper,
Yeah.
but don't give me something you can't do because you've made a commitment.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you how you're going, but at the end of the day, your team has to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So the pressure I feel is different to the pressure they feel. Like, deadlines, timescales, need people on site, need to do this is the pressure you're talking about in your lighting industry. And whereas the pressure I'm feeling is I'm the one who has to take this input from 16 project managers and a team of 250 engineers and all the subbies associated with it and get all that into the Gantt chart, into the program and make sure all the bits fit together so that come the date for practical completion, we can get our certificate and not have to pay damages for being late to the government. So the pressure I feel is about making sure we've pulled everything we need into the plan, and I'm confident the delivery team is A, committed, and B, knows what it takes to deliver that program, and then keeping track of that. So that's the pressure I feel.
Yeah, wild.
I could talk about this for ages. If anyone listens to the Week Away podcast, remember how much we talked about transport infrastructure?
We talked about transport infrastructure so much.
We did.
It was
But
hilarious.
not so much. It was
so much. And it was hilarious because I spent the whole time being like, Joel, we can't talk about bridges every time we pass a bridge. And
because I like the bypasses. We were driving down the
very
coast.
excited
like
by
all the new
bypasses.
bypasses.
You got very excited by every bypass. And I was talking to people afterwards, and one of the bits of feedback I got was how entertaining the bypass conversation was. And I was like, you're kidding me. I was trying to stop the bypass conversation every bypass we got to. No, it was great.
That was the tension that made it funny.
Yeah, probably.
You're probably right.
But no, I think this is all very interesting,
Well,
and it's all a part
also.
of your life. But go.
Sorry,
go ask
can I ask one more question?
Of course you
One
can.
more transport question. What's the best project you think you've worked on, like in working in all these kind of civil engineering jobs? What's your favourite project that you worked on?
I kind of say to people, I don't care, we'll build anything, we're there to make money, and that's what construction companies are there for.
Yeah.
But I think, what makes jobs good is it's good to finish on time and make money. That's really good because that creates a lot of buoyancy in the team. Whereas if you're running late and over budget all the time, you're all feeling a bit smashed, right?
Stressed and
And then the people you work with is, who's your boss? Do you get along with your boss? That makes such a huge difference in your quality of life.
Yes.
And then, how proud are you of the end result? So, for example, if I had worked on, and I didn't, fortunately, the casino in Darling Harbour, it was a job we made a lot of money on. We finished on time, but I wouldn't have been particularly proud of the product. So I did a little bit of review work on it, but I wasn't asked to work on it, which was good because I didn't really want to.
Oh, just because of the gambling aspect?
Because of the gambling.
Right.
So I think it's a societal problem that we've dealt with poorly and continue to deal with poorly. And I didn't really want to be part of that. Like I wouldn't want to be building a cigarette factory either for the same sorts of reasons.
Yep.
But so when you say what's the job that I'm most proud of or that stands out, the answer is Roselle Interchange, which I've just finished, which is really topical.
Oh,
because,
people love that.
I'm saying you've got to be able to be proud of what you produced. And these guys, these all-season surfers guys that we see every morning down the beach that don't train with us, but every day I see them, they're giving me the latest on Roselle Interchange and all how terrible it is.
The Spaghetti Junction.
It's all in good fun, right? They're just a bunch of funny old fellas down there. But so am I proud of it? I am. But it's funny. It's been a bit disappointing that the end result has not been seen by Sydney as what a great thing.
Yeah.
And it will be in time because it was built as a connector for Western Harbour Tunnel, not as a connector for Anzac Bridge. Sorry, we're talking about bridges.
Right. No, it's
And-
okay.
No,
Until Western Harbour-
we're not just talking about bridges, we're talking about tunnels.
Talk about tunnels.
And that
Talk
sounds
about
great.
tunnels.
Until Western Harbour opens in 2027, 2028.
Which is a harbour cross and a new harbour tunnel that they're building, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
right.
that connection is just bringing all the traffic to Anzac Bridge quicker, whereas the idea is that 30% of the traffic that goes into that goes on Anzac Bridge and 60, 70% goes on Western Harbour Tunnel, and all of a sudden, happy days, what a great job, right?
Yeah.
So
But at the moment, it's just not.
been frustrating because it's created more chaos than it's solved. And the other thing is this whole friable asbestos issue that's arisen,
Well, yeah.
which is in the recycled mulch.
Yeah.
And so we opened up this beautiful 10 hectares of parkland, and at the moment it's shut, and we're pulling all the all the mulch out of it, which has got minute traces of asbestos.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I did know that, actually.
They're now doing an audit of all the places that transport jobs and government jobs where this organic mulch recycled mulch has been used.
Yep.
And they've already found it in at least half a dozen other sites around Sydney.
Of course,
and another one was on the news this morning, and tests here have confirmed it. So
it was just that, they just got whatever was in the ground and chucked it in the mulcher and then put that over the park.
It's not quite that bad, but there's traces.
But unfortunately, there was traces of asbestos.
Jeez,
So
that's no good.
There's two things at the end of that job where we're really proud of the achievement.
Yeah.
And I love the team was great, my boss was great, all of those things. And we finished early and we made money. So it ticks all the boxes, and I'm very proud of the result. It's just that the result is currently, in my view, misunderstood.
Yes.
And it'll get better in 3 or 4 years, and everyone will love it.
Yeah.
To satisfy our audience, I want to ask another question. But more, how do you... Because you always hear about the jobs, like big jobs like that don't finish on time and blow out the budget and things like that. What is the difference, do you think, between a job that is delayed like that? What's the biggest differentiator between a job that finishes on time, like you're saying with the Rozelle interchange, and projects that blow out massively?
Yeah. So it's interesting, they talk about projects blowing out, and if you ask some people, they'll say Rozelle interchange, the timeline and the budget blew out. Because when you look at the life cycle of one of these projects, it starts with the government thinking they might build it and finishes with us finishing building it. So we spent 58 months building it on contract, fixed price contract. But before that 58 months commenced, there was 5 years of development and procurement by the state.
Yep.
So that 5 years of development and procurement by the state was originally planned to be probably about 3 years.
Yep.
So there was a 2-year roughly blowout in that period. Then we got our contract, and we did complete our contract on time. We didn't blow out. So when I say on time for me is my company signed a contract.
Agreed time in the contract.
We finished by the date for completion in the contract.
Yep.
But so what makes the difference in my world is that piece. What makes the difference in that front bit is a different question.
The government.
And I'll let the government answer that one.
Yeah.
But it has somewhat to do with how well you understand the job when you put your price and program in. Because if you bid it too short or you bid it too cheap, it gets very hard to make money and finish on time. Yep. So bidding it well is important.
Yep.
And then they are big and complex. So, and when you're spending, Rozelle was $4 billion. So that's a lot of money to be spent. And we had a staff of, I think we peaked at about 700 on the project. So there's a lot of people with devolved responsibility to do each individual bit, and they all need to come together. So, the program needs to capture all of that. So having that good plan of how it all comes together, and then having each individual and each team understanding clearly what they need to do by when, because someone else then needs to go into that same bit of land or go and put lights in your case, and then energise it, commission it, all of that. So the interfaces between the teams, if they're not well managed or not well understood, the wheels can fall off very quickly. So on Rozelle, it's the best I've seen in any of the projects I've been on in managing the interfaces between the teams and creating clear accountability and understanding what those interfaces are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool you managed to achieve that. Because you were part of the team that achieved
Yeah.
But you were part of the team that achieved
absolutely.
that. So that's really cool to hear. That's the best that you've experienced. So that's fun to hear.
It's unreal.
Yeah. I could talk about more of this for a while, but in interest of keeping Ethan awake, tell us about your family. Because so you and Janelle got married.
Yes, we got married in 25th of August, 1990.
Okay.
Which is really useful. Anyone who's thinking of getting married, if you get married on a 0 year,
yeah, it's definitely
very easy to keep track of how long you've been married. So we'll be 34 years this year.
That's very convenient.
Yeah.
Should have done that.
Bought a house in Oyster Bay.
Oh, Oyster Bay. Okay.
which we've since moved out of. Had our first 2 kids in there in 95 and 96, my eldest daughter and then my son. And then we moved to First Avenue, Janelli, just around the corner from Janelli Anglican.
Yep.
And we've been there ever since. And my youngest daughter, who was born in 99, was born when we were there. Yeah.
Very cool.
I think you live in the same street some other people go to our church.
Yeah, they live in Leaflock. That's the name of their house. It has a name.
Yep.
Yes.
Tim Narana.
2-story,
Yep.
lots of vegetation,
Yep.
narrow driveway, small carport.
That's right.
The lady used to ride a scooter.
They did.
I
they
haven't
did
seen
use
the
some-
scooter for a while.
No, I think
the scooter's gone.
they've got rid of that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think they needed more space.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
something that we always ask people, the parents that come on the podcast, is what has God taught you about being a father? Taught you through being a father. That's what I should say.
What has God taught me through being a father? Hadn't really thought about that, as you can tell.
That's okay. I'm glad I asked a good question.
If you'd asked, what's my model of parenting, which is a question I can answer. Can I
Start
answer
with that.
Can
Start
I
with
answer
that.
question? Let's
Yeah.
start there, because
Go
I can
for it.
actually talk about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my model of parenting, I think all of our models of parenting come somewhat from our own parents, and we'll see some things we liked and maybe some things we didn't.
Yep.
Maybe avoid those and prefer those. But from when our kids were born, Janelle and I adopted a strategy that says our job as parents is to take our kids, babies, infants, from being fully dependent on us to being capable of being fully independent by the age of about 16.
Yeah.
And capable of is an important part of that, because we weren't going to kick them out, but should they need to be independent, they could be. Yeah. So that was our model for parenting. Did God teach me that? I don't know.
Did you succeed in that
Well,
strategy?
none of them had to be fully independent by 16, but yes, I think they're all capable of being fully independent. Jonathan got married December 2022, so he is now fully independent, with his own wife in his own place. And Emily got married 12th of January this year, so very recently.
Oh yeah. Your wife works with. Oh, sorry, your daughter works with my wife.
It's your wife who's down there.
They
We're
did.
trying to figure
They
that
did.
out,
But she's moving down the coast now. Is that correct?
Yeah, her and her husband have rented at Woonona,
Yeah.
and her husband's working still at Hurstville, so they've split the commute.
Yeah.
Whereas your wife lives at Kirrawee,
Yeah, we live
which
in Kirrawee.
means you live at Kirrawee.
I do as well. Yeah. Yes, me and my current wife.
And what's your wife's role down there at Shell Harbour?
No, she's at Shire Christian School. Not Shire, St George Christian School.
Oh,
Sorry.
right, okay, yes.
So they
there's
talk
someone
together.
from Soli's that works at Shell Harbour as well, who lives in
Yes,
Kirrawee.
That's Liam.
That's Liam.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
yes. There's quite a few. There's quite a few teachers in many different
yeah.
Christian schools.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting confused.
And my eldest is working full time, still living at home.
Oh, okay.
But if
So
we
you've got
kicked her
3.
out, she'd be all right.
They got 3 because I think
Yeah.
you only said 2. Oh, because you had 2 when you were at Oyster
two at
Bay.
Oyster Bay and one when we moved to Janelli. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So do you have any more answers for what do you think God has taught you through being a father?
I think the biggest difference in their upbringing to my upbringing is that it's been in a faith-based household, and
Yes, I agree with that.
I remember when our kids were, they were young. I can't remember how young, but I was quite busy with ministry and leading Bible studies and going to Bible studies and other things, and Janelle was at home with the kids. And one of the things that one of the guys, the older guys, that's I think he's passed away now, Warren, said to me is, part of your ministry is to bring your kids up in the Christian faith. Don't lose sight of that. If you're doing too much and you're not at home enough, that's not what God really wants from you either. I mean, we've all got to make our own balance there, but I do remember at that time deliberately withdrawing from some of the things I was doing to spend more time at home.
Yeah.
But the other thing that and I think you weren't brought up in a Christian household either, from memory. So
No, that's right.
the other thing that I was very conscious of is, I said before, how did you become a Christian? I said, same way as everyone else. What circumstances in your life? And a lot of the people who come on your podcast grew up in a faith-based household, and the circumstances that led them to make it personal for themselves was an evolution, and maybe they can't quite put a point on it. And my kids are probably like that, right? But what was important to me is that they needed to own it.
Yeah.
That they shouldn't just do it because I did it and their mother did it, but that it was their choice and their decision, to give them that freedom to think whatever they felt they wanted to think and talk about that. So, Christianity isn't, it's got to be owned by you, not just your culture. So that's something that I think, I don't know if God taught me that, but that's something that I feel strongly about. And a lot of people get upset because I tell my kids they're brainwashed Christians because they were imbibed in Christianity from birth. So effectively my wife and I just brainwashed them. Because that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's what Christian families do, right?
Yeah.
But what's important is that you give them the chance to own it.
Yeah.
And then they're not brainwashed Christians, they're sentient people who have chosen and been called by the Spirit into salvation and into that relationship with God.
And I think that echoes a lot of the people that have come on the podcast that did grow up in a Christian home. Is it?
Yeah, they talk about
there's always a moment when they have to take it on for themselves and not just go, oh, it's what my family believes.
And when like, as that person, part of when I give my testimony, I will say that there was a conversation that I had with someone, and that person was, without these words, was saying, Ethan, you're just a brainwashed Christian. and fully it was that conversation, right? And it was me being like, oh, actually, am I? Like, is that actually what my faith is? Is it just because of X, Y, and Z? And I had to go away and really think about that and really figure it out and really come to the point of like, it actually kind of the same conclusion that you had, which is it's actually great that's why I'm a Christian. Like, it's not that I am brainwashed. It's but God wouldn't have done it in any other way. If that makes sense.
Yeah. There was a famous philosopher, and his name begins with D. I can never remember the name of this philosopher. That I think it was the 15th century.
Descartes.
So I'm an engineer.
I think it was French Descartes.
Yeah. I think, therefore I am was his big thing. And it was a flip of the time because the Christian church in the Western world was I am, therefore I think.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is, as a Christian in today's society, you're the brainwashed Christian. I am, therefore I think, becoming I think, therefore I am. And to me, that's a really important step because it's when salvation becomes personal and owned by you. Now, for me, it was a very clear moment and a very clear change in my life.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it any, more significant than your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's...
Exactly. I mean, it's a big part of the Reformation too, isn't it? It's that no longer are we part of these kingdoms or whatever that believe a particular religion, and then therefore I'm Catholic or I'm this or I'm that, whatever it was. It was the Reformation was no, you got to take the faith on for yourself, and that's what it's about. Yeah. And that's almost like to return to the time of Acts. Yeah. For example, it was obviously it's a different time in history. It's a similar thing, isn't it? Of like, no, you need to take on this faith for yourself because
the am therefore I am therefore I think was about Judaism or whatever your culture was. There was no institutionalized Christian culture.
Yes.
And the Catholic Church institutionalized the Christian culture for centuries. Now, is that bad or good? It just is, right? But I
like it how we went down the road of
into
down
philosophy.
the Descartes road.
Yeah, that's fun.
Did you civil engineer that road?
Yeah.
You just didn't mention though, realizing that you needed to step back a little bit, maybe for your family and doing that sort of stuff. But what that made me think is that tell us about leadership and ministry at MCC, because we haven't really touched on that yet. When you first started coming, what ministry did you get involved in? How did that evolve over time?
I think besides going to the youth group, the first ministry I got involved in was being a Sunday school teacher.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So the irony is the first time I went to Sunday school, I was the teacher.
Teaching.
Awesome.
So, and to me, yeah, the Bible stories that you teach Sunday school, I guess I've probably heard of Noah's Ark and Samson in the lion's den, but just the big hitters,
Yeah.
So to me, a lot of that was new to me, So that was good. And
You're like learning the Bible at the same time, pretty much. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then what we do? Did we call them home groups? I can't remember what we called them back then, but
Bible studies.
yeah,
or
some
whatever.
sort of Bible study type thing. So involved in leading those quite a bit. They're probably the two main things. When I was about, I'm going to say 25, I did become a deacon here for, I think we have a 2-year term. You get it's like the Senate. You're on for 2 years, but half get re-elected every year.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it runs. So I was a deacon for a short period of time as a young person, which was good that at 25 I was kind of welcomed in there.
That's cool.
Can't remember whether I did 1 or 2 stints, but and then it's ironic that I said I pulled back from ministry to spend more time at home, and then my work started taking me away from home regularly, so I dropped out of being a deacon and was more of a Sunday weekend person because I spent many years Monday to Friday working in another city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from pretty much just after Emily was born through till 2015. So that's 15 years. I probably spent 8 or 9 years not working in Sydney but living in Sydney.
So you're like flying out the
Out
start of the
Monday,
week?
back Friday, or out Tuesday, back Thursday.
Really? What place? So other capital cities, I'm guessing?
Mainly, so Melbourne, Brisbane, predominantly, Perth, a bit, Darwin, a bit, and then just going remote places a little bit. Yeah.
What did you do with that being your lifestyle, what did you do to counter the possible negative effects that could have come with being distanced from church or from family or from either one?
So it's not uncommon for civil engineers in construction project management to be relocating their families.
Totally.
And Janelle and I spoke about whether we'd do that. And at one point we did talk about moving to Adelaide, but we didn't win that job. But then once we started having kids, we decided, no, we want to remain integral in this church as members and participating members, and we want to bring our kids up here because the church is here, Janelle's family is here, my family is here, our friendship circle is here. So we consciously decided that we would not relocate, and I sort of roll within a construction company that meant I wasn't going to be asked to just move around, that I was able to be saying, yeah, I'll go and do that, but you've got to fly me up and fly me back. So I'd be, initially when I first started doing that, I'd be out the door 6 a.m. Monday morning and back at 9:30 p.m. Friday night. And I did that for 4 years probably, on and off, not quite the full 4 years, but probably 3 out of that 4 years.
Yep.
And then they asked me to go up to Brisbane for a tunnel tender to run the planning on that tunnel tender, and I figured out by then that big companies, generally speaking, will take as much as you give, ask for more, and not say much thanks. I mean, they pay you, right? Let's be clear, they do pay you.
Yeah.
So I just said to my boss, yeah, look, I'm happy to do that, but I'm only prepared to go up 3 days a week. I'm fine to work on the tender 5 days a week. I only go up 3 days a week, and I need a person to do this and a person to do this and a person to do this. And to my surprise, they said, okay. So since that time, and that would have been 2004 probably,
Okay.
I've taken that approach to working remote, is to figure out what I think I can make work with having enough time at home to be with wife and kids, and making sure I'm here on the weekend. And if they say no, then, well, they haven't said no yet. If they say no, I'll have to decide whether or not I'm going to refuse or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
You must have some frequent flyer points.
I used to. I spent them all.
Oh, did you? You racked them up and then spent them all?
Because my father and my brother both live in Perth and have for the last 25 years.
Oh.
The best use of frequent flyer points is a Perth trip, because it's quite a long haul flight domestically, and the points are not that high compared to Melbourne. It's 12,000 points. Perth's 18,000, but the fare is 3 times as much. So
There you go.
we would.
Oh, you've done the maths.
Particularly when I was working in Perth, we'd fly the family over regularly because
Nice.
they'd just come over and meet me there, and then I didn't have to worry about the little kids on the plane. Just Janelle can look after that. And she'll tell you stories about when the kids were really young. And Christmas holidays used to be, Daddy's got an apartment in Melbourne or wherever it is.
Yep.
They'd go and stay in my apartment and have a great holiday.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'd not get to spend a week at home, which was good for them. I probably would have preferred to come home, but they were still good times.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, that's lovely.
Yeah, right. Being a deacon, what does that mean in the Congregational Church?
Well, it's an elected representative. I think for the Anglicans, your wardens are your elected reps. You have two elected and one captain's call.
Correct.
I believe,
That's right. But we've
are
also
wardens.
in Soul Revival we also have a structure of 3 more elected representatives on top of as well as the wardens.
Right. Is that the parish council?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got Leonie, Hayden and
Adam. Yes.
They're our wardens.
Wardens.
Yep.
So who is your parish council?
Amanda, Kim and Wang.
Yep.
Is that right? Yep.
Yep.
Is Wang Rideman?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
He's from
So I
White.
met Wang.
Yep.
I don't recall meeting Amanda and Kim, but I may have.
That's all right.
Yeah, okay.
We'll make sure you do at some point.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
we will.
haven't picked up that the parish council was elected.
Yeah, they're elected as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So the question was,
Oh,
the deacons.
Is it any different
Yes.
in? Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
because I've only ever been part of an Anglican church.
Yeah, so we've been obviously having this friendship with Solies and Stu is currently our interim senior pastor, as you guys know. So, through interacting with Stu and your wardens particularly, I've been learning about the Anglican system just like you've been learning about the congregational system because, I've only ever been to a congregational church. I've only ever been a member of a congregational church. Congregationalism, central tenet is the right of self-government of every individual church. And whereas the Anglicans, I'll tell you what I think. I wouldn't say it's right. Mr.
That's
Douglas, Ashley Douglas will probably tell you better. As I understand it, the senior pastor is appointed by the bishop and he is the elder, the one elder of your church, which means he has responsibility for the spiritual health and well-being of your church. So in the congregational church, the members' meeting makes the call, and we used to only have deacons in our constitution, and the deacons would look after finance, property, admin and spiritual health. So the senior pastor would effectively report to the leadership team, the deacons, but ultimately the decision-making authority rests with the members' meeting.
And how regularly would a members' meeting happen?
So the Constitution says best endeavours every 2 months.
Okay.
We're probably running 5 to 6 a year at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's pretty close.
That's
sort of November to February or whatever.
Yeah,
Plus an AGM on top of that, which is basically
that
AGM
counts.
followed by a members' meeting when we have that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And one of the reasons that you're obviously on this podcast is because of the relationship that we have with you now. You said that correctly that Stu is the interim senior pastor.
Yep.
At this point in time, can you just tell me about how that's been going for you personally, but also just as if you've seen any differences with your church and our church, and really just to talk about the friendship that we have now, we've established over the last few months.
So, having been on the leadership team for the last 5 years, Miranda Congregational Church is still quite a healthy congregation, but we're struggling to maintain the generational spread, and that's of great concern because the gospel isn't. It's about being brought into relationship with God and brought into relationship with each other, but it's also about bringing more people into relationship.
Right.
And if we're maintaining or losing ground through people looking for a church that has more of the demographic, or through our more senior population passing away from time to time, then are we fulfilling the Great Commission? are we being good stewards of all that we have here at Miranda, which is, pretty good facility, pretty good location, and if we're just doing it for ourselves as an internal audience, and our people don't feel that's their mission, they want to do it for the Great Commission. So, but we haven't seen a lot of fruit in that regard. So we've been talking in my 5 years, and I think even prior to my time with the leadership team, about what are the strategies we should be adopting to fulfil on what we've been given stewardship of. So we commenced a city-to-city consultancy a couple of years ago.
Yep.
It'd be maybe a year to a year and a half ago, about how to try and tackle that, because they've obviously got a lot of experience with that.
So who's city to city, just for...
Do you know who City to City are? Yeah, you might be able to explain
little
it better
bit.
than me.
No.
They came out of Geneva Push.
Yeah.
And they're looking at... Well, you want to give a spiel, because it sounds
I'll
like you know
Google
better
it.
than me, or you can Google it. I'll have a crack.
Yeah,
You have a crack and
for
see
it,
how
and I'll
close
see
you
if I
get.
can fact check it.
Yeah. So I think they came out of, I'm going to say, Brooklyn in the US, and they had an effective evangelistic type mission, but they recognised, I think, from what I understand, that to be a healthy, growing church, there was value in the existing churches that were in somewhat decline, a bit like Miranda, and like many churches around the Western world, to have them strong, so that all these people being saved into the faith had places where there were mature Christians that would walk with them. So they went from being purely evangelistic church planting to both evangelistic church planting and strengthening existing churches to create a holistic ecosystem to bring people who are being saved into. Did I do all right?
Yeah, nailed it. We do all of that that was just said by training and I say we do because I'm reading their website.
Yeah.
We do this by training and equipping leaders, developing and supporting unity movements. So it's that idea of we're helping bind churches together and we're developing and training people within the churches. It's very cool.
Yeah. So we were here at Miranda working with City to City on how to do that. We didn't have a pastor in the church at the time. And the advice that City gave, besides writing a nice report on SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, which is basically giving us a good hard look in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
Which was good, healthy.
Yeah.
When I say it was good to do, and it was healthy to do, and healthy to get that perspective of City to City that have been doing that multiple times in multiple places. So their advice fundamentally was get yourself an interim pastor so you can focus on what your strategy and vision is at a outline level.
Yep.
Whilst the interim pastor kind of focuses on just keeping the wheels turning, standing up here each Sunday, doing all that sort of stuff and providing some pastoral care, et cetera, so that the leadership team and City to City could focus on that piece. And then before we put a call out, being able to say, here's who we are, here's what we've got, and here's where we see God is calling this church to be.
Awesome.
Rather than, we're a church in Miranda, we've got 80 members and 120 people that come from time to time and just come along. It's quite a different value proposition.
Yeah.
And my view is, if we're putting a call out, the first one will attract one sort of senior pastor, and the second one will attract a different sort of senior pastor.
True.
One that wants to partner with this group of believers in that vision and that strategy, or some version of it. So that's where we got to with City to City probably 6 months ago, I guess, maybe a bit more. And we put together a nominating committee, as you'd call it, or a pastoral search committee, as we call it. And we started looking to appoint an interim pastor. And at the same time, a couple of our deacons were talking with Stu Crawshaw, I think off the back of a guy called Linton Speechley, who's a Solies guy, who used to come here with his wife, about what they were doing. And the conversation flowed to the point where we were able to call Stu to be our interim pastor, which was pretty left field for a congregational church to have a serving senior pastor for Soul Revival and Anglican Church, also be interim pastor here. So the grace of God in working through different denominations, but hey, we're all the same evangelical style of church, was fantastic. And so where we are today is we had intended prior to appointing an interim pastor to continue with that strategy and visioning process with city to city, but the friendship with Soulies, Stu and the team at Soulies have really pulled their lifeboat, their boat their lifeboat alongside us to provide much more than the interim pastor type support we were looking for. So through the generosity of Soulies, we've had some support with our Friday night youth group, which is still running quite strong, mainly with families that actually never turn up here on a Sunday. And some of the families who do have kids send theirs, but most of the kids there are families not part of this church. And some assistance with that visioning and governance structure and strategy piece. Which is really, Stu kind of says, here's a smorgasbord of stuff Soulies doing, and anyone who knows Stu knows that he's much more broadly versed in theology and strategy. So he's not saying, here's the model, this is what you should do. He's saying, here's what we do, here's what I see in your church, and here's some other things that I see out there, and here's what because Stu is actually city-to-city consultant trained. Here's the sort of approach city-to-city use. So we've kind of had the city-to-city input without using the city-to-city people we engage, but using Stu, and Stu's been talking to our city-to-city consultant directly as well. So that's where we're at the moment. We've got a friendship that runs for 6 months with Stu as interim pastor. That runs out at basically Easter, just after Easter. So we're just getting to the point where we're saying, well, what's next?
Can I ask, what's the thing that you've enjoyed the most about the partnership?
One of the things that I really, Stu's made me cry a few times with the love he's shown both my family and this church. So the pastoral care that he's shown has been not just to me, but to many in our church, overwhelming. He has a real pastor's heart. So that's one thing. What was the question, sorry?
Just what you've enjoyed the most about establishing and continuing the relationship.
The other thing that is really evident in Stu and the Soul Revival ethos is we're saved into community of believers, and we want to have fun as a community. That's really evident. And I would say that MCC, would say, we get all that, but it's not as evident in our culture because, well, I'm not sure why, but we've been struggling to figure out how to keep this church growing, and we kind of get lost in the strategy and the thinking and not stop to have the joy as much. And I've seen the way your leadership team operates, your pastoral team operates. It's not that you don't care about strategy and mission goals and discipleship goals. You do, but you do it in a way that is very joyful. So seeing that as a very attractive model, and I've seen in our congregation the joy they're getting from that infectious approach.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Some of the other pastoral team have spent more time here at MCC. I've only really been here when we've been here on Fridays and seeing you and some other people like Kim being involved with that. But sometimes I think I'm a bit protectionist in a sense of when we first started talking about, what does that mean for us? And probably being selfish, what does that mean for me and what's that going to do? But I think one of the other things that Stu really broadens my mind is like, what could it actually be? And I can see, I think that's what part of what you're saying there is that we can see like this could be a really long-term fruitful friendship to grow the gospel together. And I think that's where, the impression that when you and your team have come to council meetings, is the same thing. It's just like your heart, your guys' heart is to just grow your church.
Yep.
And we're just working out how to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the cool part about it.
Yep.
Is that you really are actually really gospel minded and heart, and that is your heart to do that. And that's obviously probably one of the reasons why you guys being so open to maybe changing a few different things as you discuss those things, is that's why you see it's starting to infect. You said it being infectious, some of that joy is coming to the fore, which is really, really lovely. Yeah,
so it's a joy in serving rather than an obligation. And Stu, that's the culture he tries to create and leads.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's one of the big things that appealed to me, like when, for example, me becoming a Christian, it had a big impact on me, is that being a Christian isn't boring. Being a Christian there's lots of joy, and that's what I think that was one of the things that made me realise, actually, there is so much to the gospel, and not just reading the Bible and saying, yes, I believe in God. I think there's a lot more to that. So I can understand what you're saying.
It's the difference between being saved to go to heaven and being saved to be in fellowship now with fellow believers.
And in the knowledge
because the
of
now is quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
Not compared to eternity, I guess, but I can't really grasp the concept of eternity at this stage. I think I probably need to get into that next dimension before we can get a hold of that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to grasp that too. Before we ask the final question, Ethan, you got anything to add in there?
The only thing to add there is that it's heaps of fun. Like I think one of the ways to look at it could have been, this is really hard. Like we need Stu to come in and
fix it,
or not fix it, but just help us like stay afloat because we're sinking and it's hard or whatever. I don't know. I'm just trying to insert an example of a negative way of speaking could have been, but instead it's been, let's do this, let's have some fun doing this
and do it together.
Let's do it together.
Yeah.
And that's been really joyful and really fun and really exciting, and it hasn't been difficult. Like, I don't know, like I think it's been just really lovely and really beautiful because everyone is working together and everyone is really joyful in it. And so it's been really lovely. That's been my thoughts.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think last thing on that, I suppose, is just that, like the openness. I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes I suppose in other years, experience over the years with soul revival is that sometimes people have been very resistant to even talking about it. Like I think we do say that we do church a little bit differently, but we're like, this is how we've chosen to do it. We're so passionate, excited about it. We want to tell you about it, but you don't have to do it. That's the other thing. And I think the openness to just talk about it and listen to each other with Miranda has been something that I've really observed within both leadership teams. I think that's what's exciting as well. Yeah. Anyway, final question. We've talked a lot of your history, including transport infrastructure, which I might have to hit you up after the podcast. But looking over all those years, even going to the US, getting caught stealing, what do you think you would tell, what you know now, what would you tell your younger Christian self?
I think the biggest thing for me is, I've been here for, what am I, 58, I was 15, so what's that, 42 years, is that right, Ethan?
Oh, no, don't ask me maths questions.
What did you say, sorry, 50?
I've been 42, I'm 58 years old at
58.
So 15, so it's 42 years. I've been here for 42 years in this church, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And, when I was here as a late teen and young adult and newlywed, there was a very dynamic ecosystem that was thriving in its own way and was covering all our generations that we have here. And I guess I took it for granted. And it's really only in the last 5 years, having come back onto the leadership team, that I realised that there was some people making deliberate efforts around that with some sort of strategy and practice that must have existed. I don't think it was by accident. And I can certainly think about one of our previous senior pastors who came in with a strategy and practice. But we kind of lost sight of that at some point and went to just doing the things we do.
Yep.
So, and I was, in my probably 30s or 40s at the time, is not recognising that, possibly because I was off working, too many different places to stick my oar in on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that we missed out on some potential years of continuing to grow the work here rather than being more stagnant than growing. It was probably not shrinking too much, not growing too much, but not really. So I think, to me, to have recognised and decided to get involved earlier. I sort of been on the leadership team 5 years now, but I've been working exclusively in Sydney for 8 years. So maybe I could have easily done that 3 years earlier. I didn't. And maybe I could have found a way to do it even earlier, despite, working interstate, mainly Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Thursday or something.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you'd say kind of just paying attention more.
Yeah,
where
rather
the church is going.
Taking for granted that it'll always be here, it'll always be good.
Yeah.
Whereas it does take, I'm sure even at Soli's, it takes constant attention to make sure it's staying relevant, it's evolving. You're learning from the things you're doing and improving them, not just taking for granted the cookie cutter it's not a cookie cutter that you just say, that's it, that's all we need to do, it's set and forget.
The church will be the same for forever, yeah.
So I think I've recognised that in the last 5 years and the 6 months that we've been talking with Soli's and the 4 months we've had our friendship, it's given me the hindsight to see that we hadn't paid enough attention to that in this church, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think that shows what it really reveals is your love for this church. And obviously it's had a big impact on you for many, many years, as you've said, but also then, you also had the focus of going, you talked about before, like, I need to take a step back from church because my family is, your family is like your first, in a sense, as a father, it's your number one ministry.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously you still got to work, support your family. So you took the job, you had to travel and things like that. So you can understand why that happened. But then to see that you're like, this is the church that I really love and I want to impact in a way to keep it continuing. I think it's a big deal. I think it's a good sign of humility as well.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on the structural stuff, I think we can really easily, when something is institutionalized, just sit in that institution. And
it's like our nature as humans.
Yeah, totally.
Just be comfortable.
Yeah, and it is comfortable, and that's okay. Like, that's fine. But there is something really important about being able to continually work on something. Continually be willing to change and shift. And that is not an easy thing to do, but it is something that, we've tried to do, and hopefully we can be helping you guys do, and I think that's really cool.
We may as well wrap it up, but it's been really great having you on the podcast.
Get to know you both a bit better.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've got to know you a lot as well. It's just really great. And like I said, we'll chat about infrastructure for many, many hours
Offline.
But I suppose I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being the first Miranda Congregational Church member to come on the podcast. That's been really cool. Thank you. I mean,
it's awesome.
This is why we do this podcast, just to hear people's stories.
That's it.
So, again, thank you very much. And as always, we finish with a one way. Are you aware of the one way?
Is it like this thing?
No, that's the shuckers.
That's the shuckers.
Oh, okay.
And one way is that.
Yes.
And
you explain. I always explain it. You explain it.
It is a thing that has been happening for a long time now. And Stu likes to bring it back to Larry Norman.
I was going to say, I thought it was a Larry Norman.
Yeah, it's a Larry Norman thing. When he was, he'd finish a gig and everyone would clap. And he would say, no, don't clap for me. And he'd point up. And he'd say, and then there's lots of other iterations of one way over the years. But yeah, and so as a little thing, we like to end with a one way.
So we do this?
We do that?
One way.
One way.
Thanks, man.